happens in the Oval Office. And that's what scares me. I come at this from a very unique perspective. Not just having been a journalist, but also having worked for two different presidents.
Hey, folks. Big smile.
Pete was with the president all the time.
Unlike his predecessor, Mr. Trump does not allow his staff photographer to capture photographs of life and work inside the White House.
I am super excited to speak with this amazing gentleman, Pete Souza, who is the subject of an amazing documentary, The Way I See It, which really chronicles the administration of former President Barack Obama. He's also chronicled the administration of President Reagan. Pete, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Given the recent untimely death of Chadwick Boseman, we're all trying to, make peace of that. There is a photo that's been circulating, which is a photo of Chadwick Boseman and former President Barack Obama. Did you take that photo by chance?
If it's the one that is outside the White House Family Theater before the screening of 42 at the White House, that's my photograph. Yeah.
Wow. What
and I have to say that, the interesting thing to me, looking back, he at that time, this would have been 2013, I think. He was kind of an unknown actor.
Yeah.
So it was, I have a picture of President Obama talking to the people that came to watch that screening. And seated in the front row is Rachel Robinson, Jackie's widow.
Wow.
Harrison Ford, who played Branch Rickey, and I think one of the producers. And Chadwick was like in the third row. He was, and it was, I didn't realize till later that he was the star of the film, essentially. And he was so humble that he didn't feel the need that he needed to sit in the front row.
Wow.
Which I think tells a lot about him.
That is absolutely, it's beyond amazing. And that's the beauty of what you do, to be able to just tell story, through photography. As we move towards the election, 2020, what are your thoughts about galvanizing people to really get to the polls, to understand the impact and the significance of the right person or the wrong person, being voted in for president? What are your thoughts about that? Like getting people to come out to the polls?
Well, look what happened in 2016.
Yeah.
That should be incentive enough to get out to the polls. I think that people have two choices. One, they can accept where we are, or two, they can get on that train that's going to take them closer to where we want to be as a country. And even if you're not, Joe Biden was not your preferred candidate, if Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or Pete Buttigieg, they're all going to be on that same train, because they all know that in order to make institutional change in this country and to get us away from where we are now, that they have to go on board. And so I would just urge my many my many fellow Democrats who were maybe Warren or Sanders supporters to not stay home. That this election is too important for the future of our country, and we're actually just in what we've seen the last few weeks, we're actually in danger of losing our democracy, I think, if people don't get out and vote.
Pete, I don't think people really realize that. I don't think people really understand everything that's at stake. And that's pretty terrifying. That's pretty terrifying. You know, when President Trump was elected, did you anticipate the catastrophes that were going to happen under his administration? I mean, you have a front row seat. You've had a front row seat to two different.
I have to say, unfortunately, I did. I did foresee,
Wow.
and I can remember on January 20th, 2017, as we were leaving the US Capitol right after Trump was sworn in, and I was aboard President Obama's helicopter. And I remember saying it to somebody on that helicopter that the man that just got sworn in is just not capable of, listening to the experts and making decisions that are in the best interest of the country. Now, of course, I could never have predicted a global pandemic.
Right.
But it was the kind of thing that I felt was possible on January 20th, that there was going to be some major crisis that, because of sheer incompetence and lack of empathy for other people, that was going to lead us into a really bad place.
Wow. I sit in disbelief, when I watch the news day in and day out, just looking at how our country has unraveled. In your opinion, what are the greatest successes of former President Barack Obama? What were his greatest successes in his administration?
Well, I think bringing respect back to the U.S. around the world, passing the ACA, I think that's certainly one of his legacy. However flawed it is, it was a start. As are most aspects of institutional change in our country, they're somewhat done incrementally. He did as much as he could do at the time with the ACA, and let's hope that Biden is able to build on that and make it even stronger. But I think one of the legacies that maybe people don't necessarily touch on is he made the presidency accessible to people of all colors, and the way that he brought in African Americans to serve in his presidency and his administration, women, the second term of his administration, the top 3 national security advisors were all women. And it was a reflection of America in his administration. And when you see the images from the Obama administration and you compare them to the images of the Trump administration, I think you get a real good sense of what his presidency meant to so many people.
Yeah, the Obama administration was, a perfect example of diversity and inclusion. We all felt a part of it. And, your photography, your photo story, chronicling that was such a gift. It's a gift that will keep on giving. It's historic. This documentary, the way I see it, when you were first tapped about this documentary and being the subject of it, what resonated with you? I mean, my goodness, when I watched it, I'm like, oh my God, I want to go back to that. And I got to go back to that. And I got to watch that part again. What an amazing story. You have such a fascinating background. I mean, who knew? Who knew? Like, you just don't know how life is going to unfold for you. Like, did you ever thought in a million years that there would be a documentary about your life as a White House photographer?
No, I mean,
exactly, right?
I say in the film, as I'm flipping through my high school yearbook, that I could have been voted the most unlikely to succeed, which was true. I mean, I think my high school classmates are probably like amazed that I've had the career that I've had. I'm amazed that I've had the career that I've had. But I really do think it just goes to show that if you work hard and you, when you get lucky, because I've gotten lucky so many times, when you get lucky, you've got to take advantage of that luck. You know, I've had so many lucky breaks in my life, but I've taken advantage of them when they've been presented to me. So it's it's kind of crazy to go back through the opportunities that I've had in my career, and you know, and so much of it is because of luck and just people that I've connected with over the years. It's just kind of a life is a crazy thing. I mean, you know, I was watching that the special last night on Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
And, you know, to think about when he had the opportunity to go to acting school in Oxford, but didn't have the money, and Felice Rashad reached out to Denzel Washington, who, you know, put up the money for him and some other kids to go to that school. And I'm thinking, that's
what a powerful return of investment.
Yeah.
You know, powerful return on investment. I got goosebumps just watching that special on ABC last night about Chadwick, you know, as the world, you know, is still trying to process and reconcile that he's no longer here with us. It's just so hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. You know, when you think about your career and some of the images that you've captured, you know, do you have a favorite image that you captured during the Obama years?
You know, I say this, a lot of people ask me that question, and I usually respond by saying that, you know, my goal was to create the best photographic archive of a president. And so I want people to look at the collection of images to get a full sense of what Barack Obama was like, not just as a president, but as a human being. You know, that said, I mean, for me, it was always my favorite pictures were always those fleeting moments, usually when he's interacting with someone else, that I think really helped, you know, reveal what kind of a person he was, whether it was with his family, his girls, or with little kids, or even, you know, the way he interacted with Vladimir Putin. You know, to me, those interactions between him and other people are the photographs that I gravitate to the most.
You know, Pete, I got to tell you, when you and your wife were married in the Rose Garden, I wept. I was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You know, I'm a hopeless romantic. And just watching that exchange between you and former President Obama, wow, what a works. Like, what resonated with you in that moment when he was just like, hey, Pete, Rose Garden, right there for you. Talk to it, buddy. Make it happen.
Well, I mean, it was kind of like one of the few times where I'm in his presence and I don't have a camera around my shoulder. That was what I was sort of it was like an out of body experience because of that there was, like, you know, he and I have become friends. But I'm also, you know, I was also his White House photographer. So it was kind of a professional relationship. But in that moment, it was sort of like my camera was not present. And so I was suddenly in this kind of strange moment where, you know, my friend is officiating my wedding. So it was kind of an odd, out of body experience.
Amazing. Amazing. When you think back, about the Obama years, and the Reagan years, two different parties. What was one of the biggest differences, between the Reagan years, or the way President Reagan moved in the White House during his administration versus the way President Obama moved in the White House during his administration? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting the way you phrased it, because it's true. But at the same time, not only did I work for a Republican and Democrat, I worked for probably the most iconic Republican president of my generation, and the most iconic president of my Democratic president of my generation. I mean, that's crazy in itself.
It's remarkable.
It's remarkable. The one, I'll tell you, a similarity between Reagan and Obama is they both had this very even-keeled disposition.
Okay.
And, to have that temperament, that kind of temperament, I think is probably a pretty good characteristic to have in the presidency. I think in terms of, thinking back to the Reagan years, it was just a different time, the 1980s. Yeah. Reagan was, grew up in, he was in his 70s.
Yeah.
In the 1980s. So, he grew up like in the 30s and 40s. It's a different mindset. And he was old fashioned, if there's such a word. And he was conservative. I don't mean in his politics, he was in his politics, but I mean conservative in his mannerisms, and you must wear a suit coat in the Oval Office.
Oh wow, yeah.
You work 9 to 5, and you don't disrespect women, but there's a it was a different time for women, unfortunately, in many people's eyes.
Yeah.
And I think that Reagan responded so slow to AIDS, which he should be criticized for. And yet at the time, it was like there was this stigma attached to AIDS that shouldn't have been there throughout the country. So it's it's so hard to compare the two, because there were so many years between them. And the fact that I worked for both 25 years apart is pretty crazy sometimes.
Wow. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, but before I do, Sasha and Malia, they're baby girls when President Obama enters the White House. Now they're young women. You've got a chance to observe them, up close and personal, as they move into womanhood. Like, what do you want to say to those two beautiful young women?
Well, I've tried to be not comment on the girls that much, because that's for them to do. But I will say that I did get to see them grow up, because they were 7 and 10. They were 7 and 10 when he was inaugurated, and of course I guess they left when they were 15 and 18. And it's so it's so great to see who they've become.
Yeah.
They're young women now. Malia's at Harvard, and Sasha is at Michigan, and to see who they've become is pretty satisfying in some respects. It shows a real testament to Barack and Michelle, that they were able to raise these two girls when their lives were really under the microscope.
Yeah.
And I don't think Barack and Michelle ever lost sense that their number one job was to be good parents.
Wow.
And I think you see that in those two girls.
It is also evident.
I shouldn't call them girls; they're women.
Young women, beautiful, remarkable young women. Mr. Souza, thank you so much for your time. The way I see it is such a powerful piece of cinematography, and the world is lucky to have it. The world is lucky to have your skill. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Pete Souza's getting attention online with replies to President Trump's tweets.
I had to speak out. I knew how the job should be done.
Pete felt the urgency to show what the office can be. This was a 911.
Reagan and Obama respected the dignity of the office. The presidency is a serious job, and I was going to do everything I could to make sure people didn't forget that.
Do you have a picture for every single thing that Donald Trump has lied about with Barack Obama?
Pretty much.